The Galactic Council chamber shimmered with unnecessary chrome and a kind of self-importance only possible when 13 civilizations decided they were smarter than everyone else. The room, circular in structure, grand in design, and egotistically floating above a lavender gas giant, was filled with creatures from across the galaxy. Crystalline diplomats, feathered warlords, gelatinous analysts, all gathered in polished arrogance. And then there was the human. Jack Briggs stood out like a bruise. 42. Square jaw, tan skin with sun-etched wrinkles, muscles not sculpted by vanity but by years of real dirty work. His hands were calloused. His hair buzzed short in true military fashion. He wore combat boots still dusted in red Martian clay and a torn t-shirt that read, in faded letters, Grill Sergeant. He hadn't spoken in 36 minutes. The high speaker of the Zarnari clicked his mandibles together and fluttered his 6 robes like a smug peacock made of bone and silk. And now the Earth representative will receive formal correction for his disruptive presence. The room hushed. Cameras zoomed. Translation glyphs flickered in every dialect. Jack sighed quietly and looked at Clickhawk, the only creature remotely curious about him. Click was the size of a toddler's backpack, all eyes and gangly limbs, perched on a hover slab scribbling on a holographic notepad. His official title was Galactic Junior Observational Anthropoethologist, provisional unpaid. "This will not go well," Click mumbled in binary under his breath. A Zarn enforcer stepped forward, a towering brute, 9 feet tall with obsidian skin and 4 arms, each thicker than a tree trunk. He had no face, just a ridged mask that vibrated when he spoke. "Primitive," he growled. "Kneel." Jack didn't move. "I said kneel." The sound echoed across the chamber. A massive hand collided with the side of Jack's face, turning his head. There was a collective intake of breath, the kind of silence that only exists in the space after arrogance performs an act it immediately regrets. Jack stood still for 2 seconds. Then he slowly turned his head back, cracked his neck, and exhaled through his nose like a man suppressing a chuckle. "Big mistake." The words were calm, flat, not shouted, just promised. He stepped forward. 1 punch, a twist of the arm, a snap of bone, and then a second punch upward cleaned through the Zarnox's lower jaw and into the alien's cranial cavity. The alien collapsed in a heap of twitching limbs. Time resumed. Screaming. Panic. A camera drone caught the final thud. The headline would later read, "Human Barbarian Annihilates Peacekeeper in 5 seconds. Council in Crisis." Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Cosmic Conquerors channel. Before we start, I hope you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so that you receive all the new content, and also share the story with your friends so it reaches as many people as possible. And if you have a story, write it in the comments. Maybe we'll choose one to narrate in the next video. Let's start the story. Pay attention, because there's a small detail that might change your entire perspective and awareness of life. Jack rolled his shoulder. "Don't touch me," he muttered. Security swarmed, dozens of guards with pulse spears and anti-grav nets. Jack didn't resist. He just raised his hands and grinned like a guy who just called checkmate with a pawn. Click floated beside him, notebook vibrating. "Did you mean to kill him?" "Didn't mean not to," Jack replied. Click blinked 3 eyes asynchronously. "This will be historically significant." They cuffed him in bright white shackles and dragged him from the chamber, leaving a trail of smeared violet blood and intergalactic disbelief. 20 minutes earlier, Jack had been sitting in what he assumed was the alien equivalent of a DMV. There were 32 waiting creatures, each stranger than the last. One resembled a floating coral reef. Another was entirely made of wind. He was handed a clipboard with 27 blank pages titled Species Threat Evaluation Form. He filled it with 1 sentence. "You brought me here. That's your mistake." The Xerox had taken him during what was supposed to be a solo fishing trip on Lake Superior. A wormhole had opened mid-cast. He dropped his beer and disappeared into a bright blue vacuum. The aliens had labeled Earth a non-unified violent anomaly. And Jack, of all people, their accidental ambassador. To Jack's knowledge, no one else from Earth even knew he was missing. He had left his phone on the dock and didn't pay rent anyway. "Species appears functionally violent," ClickTalk had noted during their intake interview. "Species appears tired," Jack had corrected. Now locked in a cold white holding cell made of some glass-like material, Jack sat on a bench and stared at his reflection. Click-Tock hovered just outside, tapping the edge of the force field. "Do you often kill people in front of governing bodies?" Jack shrugged. "Only when slapped. Your species has an odd reflexive protocol." "No, we have dignity. You ever been slapped in front of people?" Click paused. "No, my people are soft-skinned and conflict-averse. We collapse when startled." Jack grinned. "Then maybe don't slap people who aren't." Click hesitated, then pulled up a hologram labeled Historical Human Archive. He flicked through files. Wars, revolutions, riots. Names like Genghis Khan and SEAL Team 6 blinked across the interface. "You have an unusually high number of successful uprisings. We're not great at following stupid rules." Click leaned forward. "I'm beginning to think this might be valuable." "What is all of it?" "I think I've just found my dissertation subject. You write essays, galactic thesis on threat civilizations. You might be, what's the word? An apex. Try red-blooded American badass. Easier to remember." The cell lights flickered. Alarms hummed. Across the station, alien dignitaries argued in every language. Diplomatic breakdown had begun. No one had protocol for slapped human crushed a Zarnik skull. In the council chamber, a vote was taking place. "Execute him," hissed the Horvek delegate, a snake-like being with skin that shimmered in anxiety. "Study him," said another. "He could be weaponized." "He destabilized the chamber," said the Galarian senator. "We must erase Earth preemptively." Click burst in without permission. "You can't erase Earth." "Why not?" "Because he's just one of them." That hung in the air like a comet pausing mid-strike. Click threw up a projection, battlefield footage, grainy and chaotic. Humans fighting humans. Humans fighting odds. Humans winning. In my preliminary scans, I found history textbooks from their internet. They have waged more wars on their own planet in 2 centuries than most species in recorded galactic time. They built flying machines before curing diseases. They turned music into psychological warfare. They turned food into sport. He pointed to Jack on screen, still shackled, still humming a song. "You think he's extreme, but I assure you he's average." The room was silent. Someone whispered, "God help us if they're all like him." Back in the cell, Jack tapped his foot to an imaginary drumbeat. Click returned, visibly shaken. "You may have sparked a diplomatic crisis." Jack leaned back. "That's what happens when you invite a Navy SEAL and forget to check his mood." "What is a Navy SEAL?" "Someone who trains harder, fights meaner, and swims faster than most fish." "And we eat steak." Click's eyes dilated. "This is going to get much worse." Jack nodded. "Good." He stood up, flexed his shoulders, and cracked his knuckles. "Now, buddy," he said, "how do we get out of here?" Click didn't answer right away, but a slow, dangerous smile crawled across his tiny, translucent face. "Follow me." And just like that, the human and the unpaid alien intern walked out of the most secure prison in the sector. Together, they were about to become legends. Jack Briggs had been handcuffed with something called quantum stasis rings. The aliens said they could contain an erupting star. Jack had used them to crack his neck. That was 2 hours ago. Now he was strapped to what looked like a massage chair crossed with a medieval interrogation bench while 3 creatures in shimmering lab coats circled him with blinking probes. Click hovered nearby, visibly sweating. If bulbous, exo-eyed anthropologists could sweat, his antenna twitched with every beep. "Can't we test someone less volatile?" Click offered, his voice fluttering. The lead examiner, a Chai named Dr. Vetak, shook his gelatinous head. "Galactic Directive 94.12b. All Class 10 threats must be psychoanalyzed within 24 rotations." "And if his mind wipes us first?" Click asked. Vetak waved a tentacle. "That's impossible. He's flesh." Jack tilted his head slightly. "You guys always talk about people like they're expired yogurt. Want to ask me something? I've got answers. Some involve duct tape. Some don't." No one responded. The machine above him descended with a soft hum, circular, silver, laced with glowing blue filaments. At its core, a telepathic neural resonance orb meant to extract thoughts gently or violently, depending on resistance. "Begin the scan," Vetak said. The orb activated. Jack closed his eyes. Inside the alien interface, memories surged, but they weren't sanitized. No, they came like fists: boot camp, gunfire, the burn of steel against skin, a humid jungle in Panama, laughter over beers in a Fallujah tent, an explosion, a brother bleeding out, the way barbecue smoke curled in the summer of '95, his daughter's first steps on a creaky hardwood floor, the clank of metals he never asked for. And then, Macho Man Randy Savage dropping from a turnbuckle in glorious 1980s Technicolor. The orb screamed. Literally. The machine emitted a high-pitched electronic shriek, sparked, spun in circles, and exploded mid-air like a firework at a backyard 4th of July party. Glowing chunks fell like hail. One hit Vetak, he fainted. Another embedded in the wall, still sizzling. Click floated over with his notepad flickering. That was unexpected. Jack opened his eyes. Told you not to look too deep. There's chili dogs and trauma in there. Security robots rushed in. Red lights spun. Click raised 4 limbs in alarm. Don't shoot. He didn't do anything. Technically, Jack added, I didn't. 10 minutes later, the lab had been cleared of unconscious aliens, half a ceiling, and one emotionally devastated AI. Jack now sat unshackled, sipping something called Zarno Detox tea, which tasted suspiciously like lukewarm mop water. Click-Talk, clearly shaken but also intrigued, hovered closer. Your mind broke a Class 5 telepathic orb, he whispered. That's unprecedented. Jack shrugged. I once fried a drone by thinking about tax returns. Doesn't mean I'm a weapon. Click ignored the comment. What was that? Wrestling. Was that real? Real enough to hurt? Your species invents fake combat to relax? We call it television. Click scribbled furiously. Tell me about this Randy Savage. Is he a military commander? Better. He's an entertainer. Flashy, loud, full of heart. Click looked up wide-eyed. I must meet him. He's dead. Oh, was he slain in combat? Heart attack. Probably from yelling too much. Click tapped his notepad and muttered something about emotional volume as a war tactic. Meanwhile, high above the station, a meeting of the Internal Species Risk Committee was underway. For alien leaders, gray-skinned, tentacle-bearing, overly perfumed, debated whether to neutralize Jack. One monitor showed him casually arm-wrestling Click-Talk, both of them laughing. This human broke a neural processor with a thought, the Khazari chairperson hissed. What if there are more like him? There are billions, another whispered. And they breed for sport. We must wipe Earth from record. And if they find out? They won't. We'll use the Omega Mind Wipe Relay. A final vote passed. The countdown to erase all human awareness from the Galactic Archive began. 72 hours. Back in the lab, Click led Jack through a secured hallway lined with cells. Inside, creatures from various worlds, giant feathered beasts, telekinetic slugs, one poor guy who just looked like a confused weasel in a hoodie. Jack paused. Why are these guys locked up? Non-compliance, civil disobedience, or just existing too loudly? Jack stopped in front of a cell with a three-eyed gorilla-like being. That one snoring? No, he's meditating. He was arrested for singing in the lobby. Jack stared. I hate this place. Click nodded. You and me both. They turned a corner, passing through what looked like an armory disguised as a museum. Click hovered toward an exhibit featuring primitive tools. This section is dedicated to early species weaponry, Click said. Here we collect outdated, often ceremonial devices. Jack's eyes narrowed. There, in a sealed case, was an M4 carbine, scratched, weathered, but familiar. Hey, he said. That's mine. Click-Talk floated back. Impossible. This weapon predates. Jack punched through the glass and pulled the rifle out like it was Excalibur. Oh no. You aliens don't get it, Jack muttered, inspecting the weapon. We don't let go of things we care about. We don't forget. You think you erased us? We archive pain, digitally, emotionally, generationally. Click tilted his head. That sounds deeply unhealthy. It's what makes us dangerous. Moments later, a proximity alert blared through the halls. The council had authorized a drone purge. Non-lethal, of course. Just something to subdue the anomaly. Jack loaded his rifle with a magazine he found in the same case. Click-Talk's eyes went wide. Do you know how to use that? Jack racked it. I've forgotten more about this thing than you will ever learn. They ducked as a plasma bolt seared past them. A sentry droid turned the corner, voice monotone and unimpressed. Human anomaly detected. Prepare for reprocessing. Jack looked at Click-Talk. You got anything that explodes? Click tossed him what looked like a glass ball filled with fireflies. Jack shrugged, threw it at the floor. Massive explosion. The hallway behind them collapsed in fire and smoke. Holy crap! Click said. That wasn't meant for combat. What was it meant for? Atmospheric scent enhancement. Jack coughed through the smoke. Your people make good candles. They ran through level after level, Click-Talk flailing directions, Jack clearing the way with kicks, punches, and the occasional sarcastic quip. At one point, they ducked into a room labeled Recreational Simulations. A giant hologram came to life, an alien version of Earth based on fragmentary intercepted media. Every building looked like a combination Taco Bell and courthouse. The anthem playing was a mashup of The Star-Spangled Banner and Ice Ice Baby. Jack covered his face. Click gasped. Is this accurate? No. No, it's not. Turn it off before I have an aneurysm. They reached the main shaft. A lift tube led to the upper platform where the Galactic Mind Wipe Relay was preparing its countdown. Jack looked up the 100-foot tunnel. Click glanced at him. You're not going to suggest climbing that, are you? Jack cracked his knuckles. Click groaned. Of course you are. As they scaled the shaft, Click-Talk clinging to Jack's back like a terrified backpack, they passed alien messages flashing in red, Omega procedure engaged. Species Earth erasure in progress. At the top, just before they breached the relay chamber, Click paused. If we do this, he said softly, the galaxy may never see you the same way again. Jack looked him dead in the eye. I don't care how they see me. I care that they remember. Inside the chamber, an alien technician, 6 eyes, floating fingers, mild jazz playing, turned just in time to see the human vault through the air, grab a control conduit, and rip it from the ceiling. The countdown froze at 02. Click deactivated the auxiliary system with a quick rewire. Sparks flew. The entire relay tower shorted. The technician fainted into his desk. Jack stood there panting, smoke curling from his shoulders. He looked at Click-Talk. Now, he said, we make some calls. The Galactic newscast was still replaying the footage of Jack Briggs punching a Zarn enforcer so hard his helmet caved in like a soup can when the next scandal erupted. The Omega Mind Wipe Relay had failed. Not only that, someone had uploaded unauthorized footage of the event to every major communications feed. Viewers across the galaxy witnessed a wide-eyed Click-Talk shouting, "Do not erase the humans!" while Jack Briggs, shirt partially torn, stood beside a console with sparking wires and muttered, "Oops!" Galactic governments scrambled to regain control. Delegates demanded answers. Planets called emergency sessions. Meanwhile, Jack was eating fried mushrooms in a stolen cafeteria and debating the finer points of pro wrestling with Click-Talk. Randy Savage wasn't just a showman, Jack argued mid-bite. He was a philosopher. Dig it. Click scribbled notes. Your species places alarming cultural weight on men in spandex screaming metaphors. That's what makes us great. A warning siren howled. Jack sighed, wiped his hands on his pants, and stood. Time to pants the galaxy, my friend. Click looked confused. What does that mean? Operation Planetary Pantsing. Click-Talk floated nervously. And that is... Jack leaned in, grinning like a man who knew chaos personally. We're about to pull the curtain back on these smug alien overlords and show the galaxy their shiny, bureaucratic underpants. Click blinked all 7 eyes. Oh no. They hijacked a diplomatic cruiser shaped like a bloated sea cucumber. Its controls were absurdly labeled in 3 dead languages and 1 musical notation system. Jack piloted it like a bass boat. Click frantically adjusted the settings. This is designed for stealth. Perfect, Jack said, accelerating into a barrel roll. Let's sneak up real loud. Destination: the Galactic Broadcast Core, a massive satellite cluster orbiting a binary star, responsible for every holo transmission across 87 sectors. Accessing it was illegal, impossible, and probably punishable by death. Jack figured it was worth the risk. Inside the cruiser's hold were several crates stolen from the Galactic Hall of Archives. Earth footage hastily labeled war, sport, ritual mating. Click skimmed through a few. These are culturally unstable. Yeah, Jack replied. So are we. They docked on the underside of the broadcast satellite under the cover of a solar eclipse. Click disabled security systems with a code he wasn't supposed to know, muttering, "Please don't let this invalidate my internship." Inside the core, Jack plugged in the first Earth drive. Immediately, the system flickered and froze. The central console displayed a warning, "Non-galactic approved content detected. Upload prohibited." Jack pulled a piece of gum from his pocket, stuck it in his mouth, and typed an override, "America Eunice Online 1997. It worked. Click stared. How? Jack winked. They'll never outcode the 90s. The feed activated. Galactic audiences, watching their usual programming, debates about trade routes, orchestral reviews of silence-based symphonies, were suddenly interrupted. The screen cut to black. Then Hulk Hogan stormed into frame, flexing and shouting, "What you gonna do, brother?" Children screamed. Elders fainted. Warriors saluted instinctively. Within minutes, Jack had unleashed a deluge of Earth culture, Rambo firing explosive arrows in slow motion, Michael Jordan dunking from the free throw line in '96, Bill Clinton playing saxophone on late-night TV, Beavis and Butt-Head giggling at everything. Click added his own footage, Jack barbecuing with a flamethrower, breakdancing in a lab coat, and defeating 3 robots with a mop. Jack adjusted the volume and leaned into the mic. "Good evening, Galaxy. This is your accidental ambassador speaking. Y'all wanted to erase us. Now you're stuck with us." Click whispered. "That's not helping." Jack grinned. "It's hilarious." Galactic forums exploded. Memes of Jack Briggs circulated faster than light. One featured him holding a spatula like a weapon. Another showed the words, "human," verb definition, to ruin plans with style. A peaceful avian race known as the Floran immediately surrendered to Earth. They just assumed it was safer. Back on the cruiser, Jack and Click watched the reaction unfold in real time. ClickTalk's notepad vibrated with updates. "You're being worshipped in Sector 43. They built a statue of you out of hot dogs." Jack raised a brow. "I always dreamed of being made of meat." Several civilizations have declared cultural emergencies. Good. 3 planets just banned the term barbecue out of fear. Tragic. Click looked genuinely worried. "They're going to come after us." Jack nodded. "That's the point." Sure enough, the Galactic Senate issued a bounty. Jack Briggs was to be captured alive or heavily inconvenienced. Click was labeled a rogue intellectual. Their cruiser was flagged, their credits frozen, and a kill team dispatched. Jack stood at the helm, staring out into the stars. "They've got ships, protocols, drones, and I've got this." He pulled a 1993 Walkman out of his duffel. Click squinted. "Is that a weapon?" "No, it's motivation." He clicked it on. "Don't stop believin'," blared through the cabin. Click tilted his head. "That sounds like rebellion." Jack grinned. "It is." The kill team arrived in 9 ships, each the size of a small city. Their leader, a 4-headed enforcer named Galactic, opened comms with a mechanical sneer. "Surrender immediately or be atomized." Jack responded by broadcasting an NFL touchdown dance compilation. Galactic hesitated. What is this?" Jack replied. "This is us on a good day." Before the aliens could open fire, Click hit the emergency hyperjump. The cruiser shot off into a trail of blue light, journey music echoing behind them. They jumped to a rogue asteroid belt outside the communication range of the galactic core. There they landed in a docking bay that had been abandoned for centuries. Jack leaned against the cruiser, lit a cigar, and looked at ClickTalk. "So, we've broadcast Earth's crazy. We've pissed off 12 governments, and we've got the entire Galactic Senate hunting us." ClickTalk floated beside him, datapad overloaded, expression unreadable. "I'm not sure if this is cultural revolution," he said quietly, "or complete interstellar humiliation." Jack took a long drag. "Could be both." ClickTalk turned to him. "So what now?" Jack looked out into the darkness, stars flickering like static. "Now," he said, "now we finish what we started." He reached into the cruiser's console and pulled out the final USB drive labeled Earth War History. Click whispered, "They're not ready for that." Jack exhaled, eyes narrowing. "They should have been." And in that moment, two fugitives, one human, one alien nerd, prepared to shake the foundation of the galaxy with nothing more than truth, chaos, and a mixtape full of 90s rage. Galactic Scenic Command had declared a Tier 0 emergency. That level didn't officially exist. They invented it for Jack Briggs. On every screen in every command chamber across the galaxy, his face was frozen mid-grin, the man who'd slapped their pride with barbecue sauce and uploaded cultural chaos to 100 civilizations without even breaking a sweat. He had crippled the broadcast core, crashed 4 economic forums with a single wrestling clip, and made schoolchildren chant, "Macho Man is eternal," in species who didn't even have vocal cords. But the worst part? He hadn't even been trying. Fleet Marshal Grovex of the Upper Sector Defense Swarm watched Jack's footage in silence, Jack yawning. Jack taping a butter knife to a mop and calling it the Peacekeeper. Jack quoting lines from Die Hard like they were scripture. Around Grovex, his generals argued, snapped, dissolved into panic. Grovex just muttered, "He's not fighting a war. He's having a weekend." And that's what made Jack terrifying. He was improvising. On the edge of the Artox fault, Jack stood aboard a stolen garbage freighter, the Dirty Randy, held together by duct tape, half a prayer, and the swagger of a man who once bench-pressed a satellite dish because it looked funny. ClickTalk fluttered beside him, cheeks flushed magenta. "The Galactic High Chancellor is en route. She's bringing a fleet." "Big one?" Jack asked, chewing jerky from a wrapper labeled, "Not technically poison." 3 dreadnoughts, 12 cruisers, plasma war beacons, a psychic moth. Jack blinked. "That last one real?" "Yes, her name is Susan." Jack sighed, cracking his knuckles. "Let me guess. They want to make an example out of me." ClickTalk hesitated. "They think you are the example." Below them, Earth's coordinates blinked in bright red. A warning signal had gone out to the galaxy. Humanity is volatile. Humanity is chaotic. Humanity is not worth the risk. Jack disagreed. "You think they'll actually pull the trigger?" he asked. Click hovered lower. "Quiet. They've done worse for less." Jack turned away and stared at Earth. A tiny blue marble tucked into the stars, radiating the quiet confidence of a species that never asked permission to exist. "Then we make 'em regret ever aiming at home." When the Chancellor's fleet arrived, the stars themselves seemed to shift. Her flagship, the Righteous Spiral, was a cathedral of gold and radiation. It hovered like judgment incarnate, casting long shadows across the void. Her voice came over every frequency at once. "Human, your broadcast corrupted 47 minor cultures. Your behavior redefined war. Your presence is a threat to harmony. Surrender or Earth will be quarantined forever." Click watched Jack lean on the railing, chewing gum like the fate of the galaxy didn't hinge on this moment. Jack pressed the transmit button. "You want to talk about harmony? Try listening to Van Halen at full volume during rush hour traffic. Try dancing drunk at a wedding you weren't invited to. Try raising a kid on a soldier's paycheck. Harmony ain't peace. Harmony is chaos that cares." The silence that followed was deep and disbelieving. Then the Chancellor snarled. "Fire!" The fleet lit up. Beams of compressed light screamed toward them. Jack didn't flinch. The Dirty Randy wasn't built for battle. But Jack wasn't counting on armor. He was counting on Earth. Click activated the Earthlink burst. And from behind the moon, the answer came. The ISS Defiant decloaked first, an old American ship retooled with human stubbornness and Martian metal. Behind it came a wave, Australian gravity tanks, Brazilian zero-G fighters, a Canadian freighter with hockey sticks welded to its hull for boarding purposes. Jack grinned. Then came civilian craft. Thousands, repurposed orbital farms, scrapyard mechs, lunar haulers, pilots wearing rock band t-shirts and flight goggles. On every hull, hastily painted slogans, "Earth bites back. Don't start what you can't grill. This is for the slap." The Chancellor hesitated. She hadn't expected this. Not the sheer volume of resistance, not the complete disregard for her authority, not music. A blast of AC/DC echoed across the battlefield. Click watched in awe as Jack picked up the mic. "You wanted to erase us. Thought we were a mistake in your archive. But the thing about humans, we're not a footnote. We're the part of the story that kicks in your door, eats your snacks, and paints your death ray pink." The Chancellor snarled. War erupted. What followed couldn't be called a coordinated battle. It was chaos with conviction. A pizza delivery drone overloaded a war droid's targeting system by offering free anchovies. A retired Navy pilot named Cheryl hit a cruiser with a trash-filled cargo pod and yelled, "That's for 2020, you bureaucratic lizards." Jack landed on the righteous spiral in a stolen drop pod. Armed with nothing but a frying pan and a VHS copy of Bloodsport, he smashed his way through guards, quoting proverbs, countering them with Clint Eastwood lines until they retreated in confusion. He found the Chancellor in the Grand Corps. Serene, glowing, untouchable. "You're just a man," she sneered. Jack grinned, bruised and sweating. "That's what you never understood." She raised a weapon, a neural whip forged from thought and fear. Jack raised the frying pan. She laughed. Then he hit her with it. It wasn't strategy. It wasn't tech. It was pure, unfiltered humanity. Messy, emotional, and utterly impossible to predict. She collapsed. The war stopped. Click watched from the cruiser as alien vessels blinked out one by one, retreating, stunned. Jack's voice came over the comm. "We're not perfect. We never were. But we're not afraid to stand up when someone tries to silence us. We're not just survivors. We are storytellers. And this story, it's ours." Later, after the stars quieted and the fires cooled, the Galactic Assembly reconvened. They didn't erase Earth. They didn't invade. Instead, they created a new classification, human, hazardously inspirational. Click was granted full ambassadorial rank. He insisted on wearing Crocs. Jack went home. He rebuilt his dock. Fished in peace. Sometimes grilled in the rain. The world called him a hero. He said he was just a guy who didn't like being slapped. One day, a young alien envoy came to visit. Curious, awestruck. "Are you really the one who destroyed a fleet with rock music and attitude?" Jack looked up from his barbecue, grinned, and said, "Kid, I wasn't even trying." And somewhere in the stars, planets adjusted their protocols, just in case humanity ever tried. And with that, we have reached the end of the story, but stories don't end here. If you like the story, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel so you receive all the new content. And if you have an opinion or something that caught your attention, leave a comment and let's discuss together. I'm waiting for your opinions, and see you in the next story. Bye.